I'm Gina Buckney. Welcome to my channel. And boy, have I got a treat for you today. Today, we're bringing you a program called A Champion's Mindset. And I've got a legend who I'm going to interview to bring you his pearls of wisdom that he's gained and gathered over the last however many decades that he's been doing this job. He is a champion in his own right. He has trained and taught World Olympic athletes who have won gold medals, broke records, everything. He has an OBE from the Queen. We bring to you Frank Dick. So talk about winning. Let's go on to the first topic then, which is focus on winning. So Frank, I guess I'll let you start really. What do you teach these athletes? What would you say is the key tips that you give these athletes in terms of winning and why focus is so important?
Well, I think to start off with, I think the core of the whole thing is to understand, in my mind, if losing doesn't hurt, winning doesn't matter, right? So you're going into situations. But what is winning? You've got to always remember that results in life are things over which you do not have total control, but you do have total control over your performance. So it's performance first. That's what matters. That actually is the only thing you have control over. If you look after your performance well enough and you keep working at it, results will take care of themselves. So you don't look at the scoreboard. You look always at your performance and trying to be better today than you were yesterday, every day. Really quite simple. But having said that, there's kind of a little process that I think is useful to go through in your head, individually, as well as if you're working with an international team. And it's this: it all starts off with controlling the controllables. Don't go around trying to fix the things you can't fix. You look at what you are in control over. And what you are in control of is things like your basics, your basic skills, right? And how you will approach your planning. These are the fundamentals, the very, very basic things.
And Frank, just on that one then, so I'm trying to relate this to where we are at the minute. So we are in the pandemic, we're all on lockdown again. So controlling the controllables, I guess it has affected all of us in some way, yeah? And I think it could be quite easy for us to get bogged down with everything that's going on around us, and that bring us down and I guess slow us down or stop us from achieving our goals. So would you say that that sort of is an example of controlling the controllables? Just do what you can and try not let everything else that's going on in the world affect your vision and where you're going?
Absolutely. I mean, you can't control the pandemic. Well, I'll come back to that in a second. You can't control coronavirus, right? It's here, it's there, it's an issue. You can't control being in lockdown, right? You're in lockdown. It's what you do with that.
I agree. You know, it's about what can we do, stay in focus. I think for me, it's like, yes, we're all stuck at home. I've seen so many businesses now actually grow and pivot. Some are, affected, but some have realised, and even you, and we talked before, it's like there's actually this whole virtual world has actually connected us with more people across the globe. And I know for you, and you did IFAC last week, and that was, across the globe. And I think it's just about having that mindset to say, what can I do? Then, the things that are going to go wrong, but how do I focus maybe on the right? Would you say that's the mindset that you teach the athletes?
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you start off with, let's say, this model at the back of your mind, what are the things I can control? Am I in control of them? The next stage after that is, as you try to make progress, eliminate all the errors, the things that can interfere with what you're trying to do, and look for those things that will give you a gain, an advantage. And in many instances, these are tiny things. So let me give you an example. Some Scottish swimmer wanted to go to represent Great Britain in the 4x100 meters freestyle in the London Olympics. So he goes to speak to some cycling coaches, because these are guys who find these tiny little differences that make a winning difference. And you know how great cycling's been for the UK in these recent years. And the coach was explaining these things to him, and the lad said, well, give me an example of something that you do. He said, well, we do lots of things. Well, give me one example. I said, well, okay, do you know we put vinegar on the spokes of the wheels? He said, what difference does that make? I said,
Vinegar.
almost nothing. And so he went home and he thought about it, and he phoned the guy up again and says, listen, I really don't get it. Why would you do something that makes no difference at all? He says, I didn't say nothing. I said almost nothing. I said almost nothing.
So it's those fractional margins that you say set you apart.
When you look in your life, in your professional life, at all the components, all the bits that you do, if you add up all the almost nothings, because there's an almost nothing in every one of them to make yourself better.
Yeah.
If you add them together, you'll get a significant something. So that's the start. You've controlled the controllables, you're eliminating the errors, and you're looking for the gains. The next bit after that is
just before you go on that next bit then, Frank. So that what you've just said there about those little marginal gains, I think in business, because I know a lot of people watching this would be interested in the business element and how we relate. Sometimes it's so hard to see your improvement, isn't it? With things that you're doing day in, day out in the grind, to see that you're moving the needle. And I think what you've just said there is it could be the tiniest little adjustment and effort to get you to that winning position. So, anyone out there that may be feeling like, I'm not sure if this is working, you've just got to keep stacking them up, yeah? Sorry to
and just to refresh on where we've got to here, there's no point of looking at the marginal differences if you've not got the controllables under control, right? So getting the basics right is really, really important, and never think that you never have to go back to them. Go back to your basics, make sure that they're in place, because in the competitive life that we're in, of business and so on, you begin to round off your skills. But it's very important to go back to them and make sure they're okay. Jack Nicklaus, legendary golfer way back in time, used to go home every Christmas, and for 3 weeks, he'd work with a pro, realigning his swing. Now, for goodness sake, I'd hoped that by that time in his career, he'd learned how to swing a golf club. But what was he doing? If you do not get that basic bit right and go back and refresh it, everything after that is a compensation. Please never dismiss your basic skills. Go back to them, get them in place. Then you can look at the error elimination. Then you can look at these marginal differences out there. But if you're not careful, Gina, you can get looking for if you like, the tricks of the trade. But if you're always working the tricks of the trade, you'll never learn the trade.
So I always love to use analogies. Anyone that's watched my videos will know. But when you are building a house, you set your foundations, yeah? And it doesn't mean to say you never have to look at your foundations again, because you're building your bricks and you're putting your extensions on and everything else. If your foundations aren't solid, then the house of cards is going to come tumbling down. And in the world that I've worked in, that's your infrastructure, So I think that's how I relate to it from a business perspective. That core basics is your foundations, yeah.
Okay, absolutely right. Yeah. So we get to these 3 bits. You then come to the next really important bit, because you've talked about mindset. It's then that you realize, you begin to concentrate on the fact that life is not going to be the way you want it to be, right? It won't be. There'll be all sorts of bumps and bruises out there. It's like, don't expect a routine in front of you. Expect chaos, and start thinking the way the astronauts do. I don't know if you've ever read the book by Chris Hadfield, The Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth.
I haven't. I'll write that down.
That is a fantastic book, because he's explaining that the whole focus of training with astronauts is to be prepared for to expect the unexpected. It sounds crazy that, but what you've got to do is anticipate things going wrong. Never expect them to be dead right. Now, I have to say that's kind of scary, isn't it? If you're going to take off, leave the Earth and float in space in a little space station, and you're going out there expecting it not to be right. Well, that could be the last journey you're ever
it might put people off. It might put people off going, but I guess it's not for the faint-hearted, is it then? And the same with athletics and, you know, getting to the top in business, really. So what you're talking about there in the business world, we would call it risk and issue management. So you're looking for the things that could go wrong and derail you, and you're going, how do I mitigate it so that it doesn't go wrong? And so how do you know, for someone new starting out, say you're coaching someone who is in their early days, how do you sort of explain that to them then, Frank, so they understand it?
Well, what you have to understand from the beginning is that you can't anticipate all the things that can go wrong. There'll be, imagine a game of rugby, a game of football or whatever. You can't imagine every single situation that you'll be facing. But what you can do is prepare your mind in advance for a process of how you will tackle that.
Okay, so it's more of a resilience technique then, would you say? It's building up your personal resilience to go, if it happens, I'm ready for it. It's not the end of the world. I'm not going to collapse. I'm going to keep going. Is that what you would say, the reason why?
Absolutely. Don't, in other words, don't expect it to happen. Expect to make it happen. It's down to you. It comes back to your performance again. And at that end, having dealt with these first three bits I talked about, first thing after that is have a mindset that's agile to facing change, to be creative and to be adaptive in the world of change. The second thing is have a mind that will leverage uncertainty, because that's all there is out there, Gina. There's no certainties out there. I mean, just think of what we've gone through this year, and imagine if we were having this conversation this time last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no certainties out there, only uncertainty. Do you have a mind that is almost excited about the prospect of that, because you're the person that will make it work, rather than think, oh my God, what's happened now?
And do you know, when we talk about agile as well, Frank, I've seen a lot of this. I know you've been probably teaching this for many years, but in the corporations that I've been in, suddenly there's this big shift to agile over the last few years, where they know they need to be adaptable and quick to make changes, rather than these big long projects that take a long time, because you're never going to get anything done. So it's a bit like Apple. I always say, think like Apple. Why have they got so many releases of the iPhone and everything else? Because they're agile. They make short, sharp sprints and they improve as they go, and look at the success. Anyway, I'm conscious of the time, and I want us to move on to the overcoming challenges. I think we've sort of started to come into that a little bit. Anything else you want to say on winning, Frank?
Yeah, it was just to finish off that little equation, if you like. Once you've got these two bits in place, after that is the most critical skill you can learn in life, is to making decisions under pressure. Once you've got to that point, then you'll win and keep on winning.
So thank you so much for that on winning. Right, so we're going to come to topic 2 now, which is overcoming challenges and failure. And I know